Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to speak with you today about something that lies at the heart of both my life and my work, the power of art, not only to inspire, but to transform economies, societies, and even the very shape of our cities. The Kremer collection, when my wife Ilone, which is the blonde on the left definitely, and I began the Kremer collection, our passion was simple: to bring together the finest works of Dutch and Flemish Golden Age that we could find. Today, our collection counts over 100 works, ranging from Rembrandt and Frans Hals to Pieter de Hoek and Albert Cuyp. New acquisitions are made regularly. But collecting is never an end in itself. For us, the purpose has always been sharing with others. That is why we created our loan program, participating in over 70 exhibitions worldwide during the last 30 years. Held some of 86 exhibitions of the Kremer collection in major museums in Europe, and in 2017 opened the Kremer Museum, a pioneering virtual reality platform that allows anyone, anywhere in the world, to step into a digital gallery and look closely at masterpieces as if they were in the room. And that is also why we plan to partner with the city of Alkmaar, 20 miles north of Amsterdam, and in doing so, we aim to prove something essential. Art is not only a cultural treasure, but also an investment in society. When we talk about investment in art, many people first think of monetary value. Paintings bought at auction, prices rising or falling. It headlines about record-breaking sales. Yet the true power of art as an investment lies beyond private ownership. Investing in art is investing in access, visibility, and community engagement. Even a single work of art, carefully placed in a museum or cultural hub, has a ripple effect. It draws visitors, it attracts scholars, creates jobs for curators and conservators and guides. It leads to the building of new cafes, restaurants, and hotels. It stimulates not just the mind, but the local economy. A city that invests in art is investing in its own long-term prosperity. The effect can be measured not only in ticket sales, but in rising property values, international tourism, and civic pride. And this brings me to the third theme: how art influences economies. Consider the example of Bilbao in Spain. In the early 1990s, Bilbao was struggling, a post-industrial city with declining steel and shipbuilding industries, big unemployment, and little international visibility. But when the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, designed by Frank Gehry, opened its doors in 1997, the city was reborn. It became an icon of contemporary architecture, drawing millions of visitors. Hotels were built, public spaces were renewed, transportation infrastructure was upgraded. The so-called Bilbao effect is now studied in business schools and urban planning courses worldwide. Proof that a single museum with bold architectural design and strong cultural programming can reposition an entire city on the global map. The lesson for us is clear. Cities of the future will compete not only on technology or on infrastructure, but on quality of life. And culture, especially art, is central to that quality. The Kremer Museum, or the Kremer collection, I should say, may be modest compared to the Louvre and the Prado, but our vision is aligned with this global trend. By combining a physical presence in Alkmaar with a digital-first virtual reality museum and Alkmaar's own collections, we are shaping a model that is accessible, sustainable, and globally relevant. Imagine a future where the museum is not an isolated building, but a network, part physical, part digital, woven into schools, universities, libraries, and public squares. Imagine art that reaches not only tourists, but local children, entrepreneurs, innovators. That is the future I believe in, and it is one in which collections like ours can play a vital role in public-private partnerships. Some 35 miles north of Amsterdam sits Alkmaar, a city of some 112,000 inhabitants. It has many attractions. Alkmaar is older than Amsterdam. City rights given in 1254, and it has many 17th century buildings and monuments. The Grote Kerk, the Grote St. Laurenskerk, you see here, was begun in 1470 and opened in 1520, and is one of the largest churches in the Netherlands. Alkmaar has canals, a famous cheese market open every Friday in the summer, and is very close to beautiful sandy beaches. The city of Alkmaar has plans to grow by some 30 to 40,000 inhabitants and build some 12 to 15,000 new homes in the next decade. Clearly, this also means growth in cultural activities. The Stedelijk Museum Alkmaar, SMA for short, houses its fine art collections. Early in 2025, Stedelijk Museum Alkmaar and the Kremer family announced plans for housing the Kremer collection on long-term loan at the Alkmaar Museum. While many details need to be worked out, the project includes a substantial increase in the SMA exhibition spaces by 2029, either by enlarging existing space or a new build. New galleries in the SMA dedicated exclusively to the Kremer Collection's collection and a long-term loan of that collection. Margie Ricken, the director of SMA, stated, "It is fantastic that we may be able to present this internationally renowned collection, which includes an early Rembrandt, in Alkmaar for the foreseeable future. This will enable us to place our own collection in the context of national developments at the time and will thus be an important complement to our collection." In one fell swoop, Stedelijk Museum Alkmaar will join the ranks of Dutch museums with leading collections of 17th century art. As part of this project, we showed some 45 works in an exhibition at the SMA, which ran from February to June this year. The exhibition was successful, attracted media attention and large visitor numbers. In May of this year, the Alkmaar City Council unanimously approved their Cultural Development Plan 25 to 2040, including a substantial budget for growth of cultural spaces. In 2016, our son Joel, who's actually doing the clicking job here, there it is, came up with the idea to create a digital Old Master Museum. With a virtual reality or VR headset, visitors would be able to have a museum experience and to look at the paintings up close. Some 18 months later, in October 2017, we launched the Kremer Museum, an innovative new concept that combines virtual reality technology with world-class masterpieces. Dutch architect Johan van Lierop of Bouwerij Studio and Studio Liebeskind in New York designed a beautiful, huge sphere floating in space. The visitor dons a VR headset and moves around by a pointer-click system, simply pointing at where he or she wants to go. In 2024, we developed a browser version, enabling a far larger audience to enjoy this pioneer museum experience. After adding a new wing in 2025, our art museum online now features 97 Dutch and Flemish Old Master paintings. With a newly updated user experience design, you are invited to explore the museum's architecture, its galleries, and of course, the paintings. You are welcomed by George and Dylan and hear them speak about the artworks via audio tours. Zoom into the paintings using our Zoom tool, and even project the paintings onto your physical walls using your mobile device. For this presentation, I could have chosen our Rembrandts, because after all, that is the biggest name in my field. Or our other masterpieces by well-known masters such as Pieter de Hoog, Albert Cuyp, or Willem van de Velde. However, as proof that unknown masterpieces can and do surface from time to time and will attract visitors, I chose this one work. Michael Sweerts stands as one of the most intriguing painters of the 17th century. Born in Brussels, formed in Rome, and active in Amsterdam before ending his career in India, he eludes easy categorization. His oeuvre moves between the dramatic realism of Caravaggio, the refined portraiture of Flemish school, and the intimacy of Dutch genre painting. It is precisely in this hybrid position that his appeal lies. Sweerts did not depict people as mere types, but as individuals who confront us directly. Young Maidservant is a masterful example. The painting presents a young woman in a nondescript interior, captured in a moment that is both ordinary and timeless. The subtle skin tones and soft light inevitably evoke Vermeer. Yet, Sweerts is less detached. There is a psychological intensity in this work, as if the maid has more to reveal than the canvas permits. The bright profile of the girl contrasts with the dark background, creating a sculptural effect. Sweerts' brushwork is fluid but deliberate. No superfluous details, no artificial pose. What emerges is not an idealized figure, but the beauty of unnoticed life. For a 17th century viewer, a maid embodied social hierarchy and dependence. Sweerts elevates her above that role, granting her dignity and presence. In this sense, Young Maidservant is radical. The painting restores visibility and worth to someone who would normally remain invisible. This makes the work a key piece not only in his oeuvre, but also in the broader context of Northern European paintings. Today, the work is often mentioned alongside Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. Yet, Sweerts goes in a different direction. Where Vermeer seeks stylization, Sweerts seeks humanity. His maid is no icon, but an individual, And it is precisely there that the modern power of this masterpiece lies. Vermeer's girl with a pearl earring has become iconic. The sitter is anonymous, suspended in silence, an embodiment of idealized beauty. Although no doubt a real person was the model for the work, it is less a portrait than a trony, a 17th century term indicating a study of character, light, and in this case, exotic costume. Its appeal lies in the enigmatic gaze, the lustrous pearl, and the distilled harmony of form and color. Vermeer transformed a simple figure into an eternal icon of grace. Sweerts' young maidservant takes the opposite route. Rather than abstraction or idealization, Sweerts offers immediacy and individuality. The maid is not dressed in exotic finery, but in humble attire. Where Vermeer cultivates distance, Sweerts invites intimacy. His sitter looks less like an archetype and more like a person with a lived interior life. The psychological charge, that subtle tension of a thought unspoken, makes the painting feel strikingly modern. Both works masterfully employ chiaroscuro and the interplay of soft light on youthful skin. Yet their intentions diverge. Vermeer elevates beauty into timeless symbol. Vermeer's girl looks at you boldly, almost challenging you, and Sweerts elevates the ordinary into dignity. Sweerts' young maidservant does not look at you. She is in her own world. If Vermeer's girl belongs to the realm of myth, Sweerts' maid belongs to the realm of humanity. Both are unusual. Portraits in the 17th century were commissioned and expensive. Simple girls could not afford such works, especially the Sweerts, which is substantially larger than the Vermeer. Clearly, both are refined and finished works. For a private collection, this juxtaposition is particularly meaningful. For many years, both paintings hung together in the Vermeer room in the Maurits house. There, the visitor was able to directly compare the works. Vermeer represents the zenith of Dutch refinement. Sweerts represents the overlooked genius who crossed borders and conventions. Together, they reveal two sides of the Golden Age: the iconic and the intimate, the ideal and the real. So, our young maidservant was acquired in 1997 and had never been exhibited, and thus was not known to the public. So the question is, how was our young maidservant received by the public since 2000, when she was on loan to the Maurits house? Let me give you some examples. 2007 saw the official opening of the Dutch Portraits exhibition at the Maurits house in The Hague, where many distinguished people, including Queen Beatrix, were gathered in attendance. Ronald Plasterk, then Minister of Culture, addressed the audience. During his speech, he commented, "Of course, the maidservant by Sweerts has to be mentioned here. It is my absolute favorite, and in the museum." After his speech, he took people to the Vermeer room to actually show the painting. Simon Schama wrote in The New Yorker in an article titled, "Another Dimension, Michael Sweerts is one of the greatest artists of the 17th century. Who knew?" And I quote, "The rendering of her skin is a technical marvel on a par with Rembrandt's or Gerard ter Borch's greatest adventures in naturalism." Rosy where it should be rosy, blue shadowed between the bridge of the nose and the eyes, unquote. Belgian art historian Bart Makken actually went a step further in his 2007 article, More Beautiful Than the Mona Lisa, and wrote, and I quote, "Whoever looks at this painting will no longer understand the excitement over the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. Never has a girl been so beautifully portrayed, or has there been a more beautiful painting of a young girl. She looks so sweet and unabashed out of the picture, she does not blush, as she does not see us looking at her," unquote. An anonymous visitor to our exhibition at the Frans Hals Museum in Haarlem in 2009 commented, "One painting there completely bowled me over. This one, apart from her melancholy glance, do you notice the pins in her plain dress? Knocked me out, it did. On a par with girl with a pearl earring at the very least." In 2014, the Kremer collection participated with a loan of 11 works in the exhibition Rembrandt and the Dutch Golden Age in the Museum of Fine Arts in Budapest. Visitors were greeted by 3 paintings on the outside walls showing left to right: Rembrandt, a self-portrait dated 1629, Michael Sweer's Young Maidservant, 1660, and Johannes Vermeer, The Astronomer, 1668. Of course, anybody looking at any piece of art will have his or her own opinion, preferences, and sense of beauty. It is my job to show and teach people to look at paintings and explain what I see, and hopefully an interesting dialogue will result. In closing, let me return to where I began. The Kremer collection was born out of passion, but it is sustained by a belief that art is not a luxury, but a necessity. That art is not just a window into the past, but a bridge to the future. And that investing in art is one of the wisest investments a city, a nation, or a society can make. Thank you.